On the goal line says, give me Pollard for Jimmy G in a 4th rounder. Who's Pollard?
Pollard?
I don't know. Sorry, on the goal line. Pat O says Jordan Mason time, $10.
I'd rather see Jordan Mason than Trey Lance on a 4th and 1. How about you got 240-pound back who hits the ground running? I would have loved to have seen him instead of punting on 4th and 1 in the 3rd quarter.
Dave says, got my Cohn Zone long sleeve a few weeks back. Good quality. Thank you. Thank you. Still a diehard Niner fan. No idea why Kyle didn't put Mason in or even follow what was working. Why does he sabotage himself? He just seemed a little disconnected yesterday. So I asked Kyle, like, why didn't you put in Jordan Mason? And he said, well, Jeff Wilson Jr. was doing a lot of good things. And then he stopped himself. He said, he did a couple good things. It's like, no. Were you watching? He didn't have it. Give someone else. Nothing against Jeff Wilson Jr., but if you're watching, I think it was pretty clear after about like the 4th or 5th carry, give someone else a chance.
Well, I want to amend what I said this summer because I said it this summer. They have got 5 starting caliber running backs. When you look really close at the 49ers, I think Wilson's lost a step. Mason's closer to 240 and probably not an every down guy. I think they got really 2 every down guys. It's TDP and Mitchell. And now that Mitchell's down, I'd like to see TDP get some run. I think he's 220 pounds. He's fast. I loved 4 or 5 of the runs he had this summer. I thought they were as good as anything I've seen around the league.
Callie Tremor says the game exposed the Niners O-line, etc., and the need to address the many needs months ago. Still Super Bowl caliber, yes, despite missing key players. I like y'all taking the team open and truthful. The way I look at it is, yeah, they can win the Super Bowl, but look what happens. You take a couple players away from this team. Kittle, Ward, and Mitchell. Now you're like, ooh, they just lost to the Bears. If they had Mitchell for the whole game, I think they win that game pretty easily. Although the defense was just giving away 15 yards here and there. Like, here's a touchdown. Dante Pettis.
Kittle, Ward, and Mitchell probably are 3 of their top 8 or 9 players on the whole team.
I would agree. Eric says, Grant, love you, dog. How TF do we lose to Seattle? If they can't run the ball. If the Niners can't run the ball, they're in trouble. But I think they can, is what I'm trying to say.
I mean, last year you lost to Seattle because of special teams.
Good point.
So it could be anything. It could really be anything.
Good point. Ricky Miranda says, here's $5 for a beer because I'm currently at my local dive bar still drinking last night's game away. Thank you, Ricky. I appreciate it. I'll pour a little out for you. Joseph says, Kyle was terrible yesterday and Larry is right on 4th and 1. We should have went for it. No risk, no reward. Yeah, it's the Bears, man. Come on. You have a great defense, right?
But I mean, that's one right there where I feel like Kyle's when he goes for it and when he doesn't, there's
no rhyme or reason.
Yeah. There's not only no rhyme or reason. It seems like it's, I looked at that again last night. I'm like, well, is he going to come back and say, well, it was really more like 2 yards. It was less than a full yard. Was less than a full yard, and you've used Trey Lance, and Lance behind your line has shown he was willing to duck his helmet and bury it into the defender and push the pile. So I don't love using him that way, but you got you have the one quarterback in the league that you can absolutely depend on in 4th and 1, and you get to 4th and 1 and with the momentum shifting and you don't lean on him and you give the ball willingly back to the other team. I thought that was a wasted opportunity. Take back the momentum that they got on the Pettis, take it right back, and I think the whole rest of the game would have played differently.
I agree with everything you said, except the best 4th and 1 quarterback in the league is Jimmy.
That's right.
Bring him in for the QB sneak. 1 a game. I think that'd be phenomenal. Travis says Trey scored more than the 2019 Mud Bowl D let us down. Yeah, I mean, yeah, that's true. They had the Mud Bowl in Washington, 1-9-0. That's true. Yeah. PJJ3X says, run with Debo on 3rd and 5. Do what you did in 2021. Yeah, that was their secret move in 2021. When it was 3rd and long, hand the ball to Debo. It usually worked.
And they didn't run. I mean, they ran Debo more in this game than I thought they would.
8 times. Adam Gardner, $20. Thank you very much.
Just for the heck of it.
Just for the heck of it. Jesus says, Grant, I think Denise needs to show up to the facility again. Yeah, John York. Remember that last year? All of a sudden, John York started showing up in like October.
And they lost 4 in a row or whatever.
Yeah. Mike says, I feel like every team should have a dome. They could just open it up on sunny days, in my opinion. Nonetheless, Trey played good to me besides the pick, but I don't like that play call anyway. Yeah, I agree with that. There should be no artificial turf in the NFL. That being said, the Niners they're gonna complain about this grass.
Well, I mean, that turf was unplayable I don't know if it was the Bermuda, the drainage. I've seen high school fields drain better than that.
William says like 8 third downs, Trey completed with his arm and legs. Scramble was effective. Glad this ugly loss came early, honestly. They needed a gut check. Nose to the grindstone now. Clean up the penalties, please. Sean Bullard says Kareem Hunt. He's good.
I'd take him. Now, I know there's a lot of Niner fans that would not cross that road. Oh, the Pollard thing was about Tony Pollard to Jimmy to Dallas for Pollard, but that ain't happening.
I don't think it's going to happen, though. Giovanni says, how concerned are you about this team? Be honest. What I'm concerned about is the locker room. Like, I feel like I believe in the team more than they believe in themselves. I feel like they're having an identity crisis. Maybe I'm wrong. Maybe I'm projecting.
As far as my concern on the team, I'm just concerned that they're going to run their quarterback into injuries just because they have a somewhat mobile quarterback.
Yeah.
And I don't just because you have a somewhat mobile quarterback doesn't mean you have to, run him into a brick wall.
Right. To me, the whole thing with the mobile quarterback, it's the threat of him running. You don't want him to run 13 times a game and to be like powering forward to get those extra yards. He makes everyone else better. Right. Just the threat. So I don't know. He doesn't need to be your leading rusher. Pato says interior O-line wasn't terrible. Burford solid. Brendel Banks were okay. Team's biggest concern wasn't terrible yesterday. Something to be encouraged about. That's another one. Good point.
Banks had one bad one, though. He gave up one sack. And McGlinchey gave up a bad sack in the first half, too.
Yeah, the two Notre Dame guys, not so great. Phil says Trey Lance looked solid, in my opinion, managed the game pretty well. Defense played lousy the second half and beat themselves. Thoughts? Yeah, I just couldn't. All of those penalties. Travarius Ward on third down. Javon Kinlaw, third down. Come on. Greenlaw. Like, forget the one on Fields. You stopped, was it Montgomery in the backfield on third? They handed off on third and fourth. They were like, whatever, we don't even care. We're gonna punt. And you gave him first down. That's
with a face mask. And Bosa had a face mask on the same play. My concern with the Niner defense was how well Khalil Herbert. He went untouched in the defense. That last sequence, the defense gets a stop there. It's a one-score game. It's a one-score game. You got a much better chance to win. The defense did not only not get a stop there, Khalil Herbert waltzed in untouched. Untouched.
Right. And like when he was going,
that can't happen.
It was right between the B gaps. Where was Armstead? Where was Kinlaw? Those guys are supposed to be serious top 10 players on this team. And I didn't think they made an impact in this game.
Can the Niners stop the run between the tackles without DJ Jones? That to me is one of the big questions. And Kinlaw, when he's looking good, makes you think, oh, hell yeah, he can do all that and then some. And then you see him over the course of a game and sometimes in the second half, and you're like, wait a second. Is this guy as strong or is he what he's, billed to be? Because it seemed like Khalil Herbert had many openings there in the fourth quarter.
Yeah, and he only got 9 carries, averaged 5 yards a carry. Montgomery got 17 carries, averaged 1.5 yards per carry. Imagine if the Bears had actually used their best running back more. Could have been an even rougher game for the 49ers. Keneal says, any chance a slightly thicker Debo is by design so he can consistently take a solid amount of carries a game? See more running back than wide receiver yesterday. I don't know. He got 8 targets too. I don't think that's by design. No. I think
it's most definitely not by design.
No.
But one thing that's pretty clear, as we've seen enough of it now, is that Lance needs more practice field reps with Debo, and they need more after practice taking shots down the field, and they need to get on the same page. It's like they say, if we're all right, we're all right. If we're all wrong, we're all right. That's kind of thing. And well, just get on the same page.
Yeah.
And moral of the story.
Jay Mills says Kyle's fourth down play calling is awful too, though. That's a good point. When he does go for it on fourth down, sometimes if it's not a quarterback sneak, he will call some of the weirdest things. I remember they went 0 for 5 on fourth down in Arizona last year. That was amazing.
Yeah.
That was breathtaking.
Running wide against Isaiah Simmons. That was questionable.
Defense still can't contain a mobile quarterback. To be fair, Fields is tough to contain. But yeah, it's true. That's true.
We'll see what they do this week against Geno, who doesn't have really the mobility that Fields does.
CT Law says, serious question. Do you think Lance is still spitting out turf from when Dominique Robinson threw him into the ground like a rag doll? Also like the shirt choice. Thanks. What bothered me about that play is Robinson beat McGlinchey. Robinson throws Lance to the ground. McGlinchey standing right there. Instead of like bending over and offering a hand to Lance to help him up, he just runs to the sideline. What is that? I don't like that. I don't know what that is.
I don't like that either.
I don't like that either. Keneal says hated 4th and 1 call. Be aggressive with the lead. Yeah, that's a really good call, Larry. I didn't think of that yesterday.
To run, to go for it on 4th and 1. You're, 41-yard line.
Yeah.
So yeah, you would have given them a short field if you didn't get it. But there are games where they look like they struggle to make a yard. This wasn't one of them. This was not one of them.
Correctly, Lance scrambled for the 8 yards and really, really like pushed ahead, took the hit, tried to fight for the first down, didn't get it. Kyle immediately put the punter on. Like, dude, who's competing here? Lance is competing. What? Give a chance on 4th down. He didn't even think about it. Yeah, I didn't like that at all. Kyle got very conservative in the second half for no reason. No reason.
And at that point, too, you can't just play the long field thing because, we'll just make it a long field. Yeah, you know what? You're one slip down away from a busted play. Oh, wait a second. There were 2 busted plays.
That's right. Yeah, and that's the kind of thing that happens week 1 in the rain. Jimmy says the clip of Trent and McGlinchey not helping up Trey after the sack speaks volumes. Yeah, that was the one in the red zone. I couldn't believe that. What is that? I guess we'll find out eventually. Maybe someday someone will write a book about it. Jimmy Ward was a huge loss. Yeah.
Jimmy Ward is one of the best players in the league that nobody talks about. The one thing, though, that's concerning is that theme of there was no Jimmy Ward, no Kittle. Well, what do they have in common? They both are hyper-aggressive guys who out-hit their body. And that is a problem because that's why those guys keep getting hurt. It's because Kittle loves contact. He'd rather run through instead of around. And Jimmy loves to detonate on guys. And he's part corner, part linebacker. But the part that he likes is the linebacker. And that's,
Yeah. Matthew says, why call the short middle? Trey was ace in the deep throw. Yeah, I don't know, considering he's so much better throwing down the field and short, so much better throwing outside the numbers than over the middle. I mean, you can't do only one thing, but you probably want him to focus on his strengths, like in the first half.
Well, and let's talk about it for just 1 second. Yeah. Where does Trey, when he misses, where does he miss? He misses high. So if you're going to have him miss, would you rather have him miss high in the middle of the field where all the defenders are, or have him miss high on the sideline where the ball just goes into some, defensive linebacker coach's, legs or something? You know what I mean?
Right. Also, if you're concerned about him reading coverages because he's inexperienced, over the middle, you got safeties and linebackers. Outside the numbers, you got a corner. There's much less to read. It's a much clearer picture. He can make the throw. Those are the throws you want. I mean, for example, there was a 3rd and 3. He hit Ayuk on the out route to the left. It didn't count because they said Ayuk pushed off. Whatever. Maybe he did. Maybe he didn't.
It was a terrible push off by Ayuk because it wasn't necessary.
Okay, but yeah, the throw was perfect though.
Right.
I mean, that's a throw that Lance can stick. Call it again. Call it again. What we do, don't all of a sudden start going to slants because we saw what happens when he throws slants. Sometimes he leaves the safety to the guy. Sometimes he sails it high.
The one thing that is frustrating watching Kyle Shanahan call games is that I feel like there's other coaches that when they do something that's successful, and it's like you haven't stopped it, here it comes again, here it comes again, here it comes again. 49ers will do things that they're good at and that are successful, and you may not see it for a game and a half.
Which is crazy. Like Bill Walsh, he wouldn't just call flanker drive once a game for Jerry Rice. There wouldn't be just one slanted game for John Taylor. He'd call a lot of them, but he would dress it up in different formations with different shifts and motions and personnel groupings so that before the play, the defense like, oh, this is something different. And then, no, it's flanker drive again. Are you kidding? You have something that works. Like for what worked for Lance was the play action deep over stuff or anything deep. All of a sudden, you thought, no, we're not doing that in the second half. What? Okay. Hey, smarter than me. Last one, then we'll get to the show. Kenny G says, I like how people say Justin was the better pick in the draft because the arm and the time he played in college. But if Fields sat like Trey, probably would have been the same or worse than Trey. Stand behind Trey.
Okay. Fields is 3-8.
Yeah.
He's 3 wins and 8 losses in 11 starts.
And so what we really yesterday? Jordan says, looked like Trey struggled with quick first reads, either hesitating or holding on too long. Should Trey play better on Kyle plan more 5-7-step dropbacks? I say play action shots. That's what I say. Don't make him be Jimmy. If you want a quarterback to throw over the middle real quick, then just let Jimmy play. That's what Jimmy does.
The one that stood out to me, Grant, was the one where Trey held the ball too long. Well, he held the ball too long in a couple instances, but it was the third and goal pass where he drops back to pass. He held it. He looked through his progressions, and then he took a sack from Robinson and Roquan. That was third and goal, I think, from the 4. That one you got your internal clock's got to be sped up. You got to get rid of that football. He just took a sack there. He really shouldn't have.
Tobin says nobody talks about blown leads with Kyle, a pattern. I think we do. It is a pattern. Percy says, what up, Grant? I know it's early, but do you still feel Niners made the right decision not picking Fields? Because I felt Fields would have been a perfect fit. I didn't think Fields was that great in this game. He had 1 pick. He had 2 that were dropped. He took advantage of a couple busted coverages. I didn't think he was better than Lance, although the narrative is that he was way better than Lance in this game. I didn't see that.
I think Lance processes what he sees and has the ability even now to throw with more anticipation than Fields. And Fields is the more experienced guy. So wait until 2 years from now. I think Lance is going to be significantly better than Fields.
Ominous24 says Schefter just reported Mitchell is expected to miss 2 months with a sprained MCL.
That's what it looks like to me, too. It was a helmet to his right knee. He had the knee planted. It kind of bent inward a little bit. And I was talking about on the radio today. They said, how long do you think? I said, looked like a 6 to 8 week thing. So the fact that it's 2 months, I think is pretty much on the money. Now, what does that mean, though? I want to see more Ty Davis Price. Mm-hmm. I think Ty Davis Price is the back. I don't want to see Jeff Wilson, exclusively next week against Seattle. I want to see TDP.
LD says, how impressed were you with Kinlaw early?
Well, I'm always impressed by Kinlaw. I mean, the only thing I'll say about Kinlaw is he's got a lot of the same problems that he had when he entered the league. He exposes his legs. He loses leverage. He plays upright. He gets tired. And he also gets, he's a high propensity for injury because he's exposing his legs to the blockers, but he looks phenomenal. And when he's fresh and healthy, I think he's, overpowering as a bull rusher, but I don't think he's TJ Jones. And I think the Niners may learn that lesson the hard way.
I don't know. I felt like he didn't make an impact as a pass rusher. He didn't have any tackles, but that's okay. Like if he could just shut down the run, that'd be fine. But Herbert, 5 yards of carry, all between the tackles. I don't know. I need to see more. I'm not going to rush to anoint him yet or to say that he's a bust or something. I just felt like he didn't make an impact on this game. And I felt like Montgomery's just a terrible running back. Herbert's good. Herbert did a really good job in this game. I need to see Kinlaw and Armstead, the two of them, not just Kinlaw, both of them.
We did see Ridgeway make some plays in this game. That was good to see. But yeah, they don't have a DJ Jones. So that's a concern.
Fields had 22 passing yards and less than 40% completion midway through the third until Pettis played. Let's stop acting like Fields played lights out.
Seriously. I mean, who was it on ESPN that was touting him as having this great game?
I forget her name. It was one of the anchors. She was talking to Louis Riddick and kind of leading him like, Justin Fields was great, wasn't he? I know you like Trey Lance, but he really struggled, didn't he? And he was like, well, showed us a lot of good things, but I forget her name. We're
so in this mode now. The team that wins quarterback must be good. Like the Niners beat the Packers in the postseason. Oh man, Rodgers had to suck and Jimmy was great. And if you watch the game, Rodgers completed almost 80% in 1 degree temperature, and Jimmy threw 2 pick sixes that were dropped.
I can't stand that style of football analysis. It's basically saying like, I don't care what happened in the game. End result. He's the quarterback. All you need to know. Like, okay, well then why even watch the game at that point?
Right, exactly.
Why are you even watching it?
Yeah.
Isaac said, did Kyle call any bootlegs? Yeah, and I don't think they were successful, but the play actions he did call where Lance stayed in the pocket were very successful. I
like the idea of Lance on the bootleg pass.
Yeah. I think that's a good spot. The Bears are doing a pretty good job of keeping him in the pocket, but he hit some big throws from the pocket off play action. Frank says, was more impressed with some of the throws Trey made than I ever was with Jimmy. Those deep double moves smack. Yeah, they do. I like those a lot. It's nice seeing those in and out. I can't take an offense where everything has to be. It's just like an NBA offense with no 3-point shooting. You can't do that anymore. My opinion.
Well, and also, I mean, the more grass that you make the defense defend, the better chances for success.
It's that simple. Raphael 562 Niners says, why did the Niners utilize Juice more? That's the question I've been asking the last 6 years. They keep giving him more and more money. He's like a lifetime member of the organization. Never use him.
It's a weird situation.
Yeah.
And they use him in weird ways, like wildcat quarterback.
I mean,
short yardage.
They were in 3 wide receiver formations a lot in this game. CT Law says, so we already know that Dallas is on the phone with Lynch. Jerry Jones is a lunatic that would absolutely trade overnight. Dude is not stable. From what you saw, do you trade Jimmy and run this with Lance and Brock? Okay, let's talk about it. Jimmy G to Dallas. Do you think Dallas wants to do it? Do you think the Niners want to do it? What do you think?
Well, I mean, God, I think in some ways it's a dream scenario for the Niners. Why? Because Jerry Jones and his kids are impulsive and they're not smart. So that's a great combination. The guys who are just super impulsive and not that astute. So I do think Dallas, Dallas has got the same challenge that Joe Lacob has with the Warriors. They've got this opulent stadium that cost an arm and a leg, and now you got to get people to come to it. So you can't sign off on the season in week 1. So yeah, I think Dallas would be interested, and hell yes, I would be interested in making that trade. I want a 2 and a player. That's what I want, or I want 2 2s. That's what I want. And I would drive a hard bargain because I do see some value in Jimmy at $6 million staying as the backup, though I love Purdy. I'm a big Purdy fan. So, I would definitely make that move, but you got to get more than a 3 because you're getting a 3 at the end of the year, no matter what. And I don't know that 1-2 is enough. If you're getting a 3, you could have Jimmy and get a 3 at the end of the year, or trade Jimmy and get a 2. I don't know. I think if I'm going to trade Jimmy, I need 2 2s, or I need a 2 and a player.
Well, you get a 3 for Jimmy if he's one of the highest paid free agents on the market next year, which would mean he'd get like a starter contract to get 16, 17, $18 million, something like that. That could happen, or he could be a backup again next year if he doesn't play or plays poorly. So there's that. My thing, I'm with you though. It needs to be a lot, because if you don't have Jimmy Garoppolo, and you were just saying the Niners could very well run Trey Lance into the ground quickly this season, what happens? I mean, like Brock Purdy, but can he really win a month of games worth for you as a rookie? Not sure. So all of a sudden, it seems like the Cowboys really have to give the Niners at least 1 second-round pick. And I don't know that they're going to do that. So I don't think they're going to. I think Jimmy's going to be here all year.
I'll tell you what I would want specifically. I'd want their 2nd-round pick and one of their young D linemen. They've got Sam Williams, who played at Ole Miss. They also have Ridgeway, who D tackle, played at Arkansas. In a lot of ways, he is a DJ Jones type. I know they're loaded on D line, but I'd want a pick and a player.
Do you think it happens?
No, I don't. I think Dallas will go with Cooper Rush. I think the 49ers won't get their price. I think they'll wind up sticking with Jimmy.
Josh says everyone had a weird week 1. Maybe it's an anomaly. Hey, good news is that no team in the NFC West has won yet this season, and it doesn't look like. I'm not expecting Seattle to win tonight, so that's good news.
Yeah. Rams are thin too. The Rams are thin. Don't be thinking the Rams are going to be great. They're not.
Yeah, I mean the Niners look bad week 1. The Rams scored 10 points. Now they played a much better team, but still, and they're similar. The Rams and Niners are similar in the sense that neither team plays their starters in the preseason, so. At least both of them look flat to me this year.
Yeah.
Dave says, please get rid of Jimmy. Please, please. No drama. Too late.
No drama. Come on.
Late. Dave says, I think Larry is right. Niners will ask too much, i.e. for Jimmy. Agree. EF says, Trey needs to develop and win at the same time, especially while Jimmy Garoppolo is still on the roster. What happens if the Niners are tracking to miss the playoffs? Roster built to win now. Well, again, the Niners
were 3-5. That is the ultimate question right there, isn't it?
It is, but the Niners were 3-5 last year to start, and it seems like it takes Kyle and D'Amico a couple of months to figure out who their best players are. Like, Kyle's still trying to figure out who his best running back is. That's not Trey's fault. It's not Trey's fault that Dre Greenlaw's trying to figure out what a 15-yard penalty is on defense. But I'm with you. If Trey's the reason they're losing games, they have to pull the plug. But he wasn't in this game.
There are a lot of people that this morning on the radio would have wanted to just hold his feet to the fire. There's a lot of people out there that are pro Jimmy, are absolutely bent that how dare any of us criticize Jimmy. And now they want to throw that onto Trey and like be super grind Trey into the dirt and expect Trey to make no mistakes. And I said, what do you go by the birthing center at Children's Hospital and start heckling all the babies? You're never going to do anything. It's like, you got to give people a little bit of time to kind of get their feet wet. I realize he's not a baby, but he's a relative infant in the grand scheme of the NFL, the NFL picture.
Right. And there's a lot of people like that in the fan base, but in the media too. That's like, oh, people that like Jimmy, that feel like they were proven wrong about him. And they're like, oh, people were so critical of Jimmy. Let's see how you like it when you get that same energy with Trey Lance. Well, the difference is that Jimmy was 30 and wasn't getting better. And it was fair to point out that he was making the same mistakes over and over again. I'm not saying Trey Lance will improve and be a top 5 quarterback, but it's fair to give a 22-year-old the benefit of the doubt until he starts making the same mistakes over and over again, which he hasn't done yet.
I love how the media people who do this, by the way, always point to the fans. They never, or media, other media. They never point to, I don't know, Shanahan and Lynch.
Right.
Forget what I'm saying about him. Forget what you're saying about him. What's Shanahan telling you about him by going about Jimmy by going after Trey to begin with? I mean, nobody ever wants to go there. It seems like they never quite get to that point. Like, it's the media that's doing this. It's what about Shanahan and Lynch? Yeah. They're the ones who went down this Trey Lance road.
Sean Weaver says Trey needs to learn to slide when on the run. Fields was able to draw 2 huge defensive penalties. It will also help keep him on the field. That's a good point. Fields and Kyler Murray use the slide as a weapon. They slide late. They draw penalties. It's almost like cheating. But
it is.
You're supposed to, have some gamesmanship. You're supposed to game the rules. So Trey, you should probably add that. You saw how that helped the Bears yesterday. You do that too. I would.
Stop exposing Trey to all these hits. My God, any one of these hits could end his year.
Yeah. And Trey,
for 3 yards,
your shoulder and fighting for 3 yards, slide and get an extra 15.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
It works.
Exactly.
Dave says Mason, $2. I love it. We just got to get Mason chance. Dark Halo 2 times says, check stats for Trey at Bears, Jimmy Garoppolo versus Colts. Almost identical. Fans vilifying Trey and calling for Jimmy Garoppolo already aren't seeing the bigger picture.
That is so true. I looked at those numbers this morning before the show. Oh, they should have gone to Jimmy. Jimmy would have been. No, Jimmy played in a monsoon game, and the numbers were almost identical.
Yeah. Yeah. Isaac says, which loss is worse, yesterday or second Arizona game from last year?
Second Arizona game.
That one was rough.
And Colt McCoy sucks. He completed 85% of his passes in that game.
That's the thing. Like, the Niners just got eviscerated in that game. They never showed up. In this game, they showed up, dominated, and then just quit. Not they didn't quit, but they just went home at halftime. They're like, you guys take it. Go ahead. We proved our point. We showed you. No, finish the game. What? There was no game to finish against Arizona that time. It's different. Hard to compare. Kajon 25 says, sign Tyler Goodson off Packers practice squad.
Are you looking for a back? Now you're looking for a back. I guarantee you there's a bunch of good backs. That's the beauty of it.
It's Michael Hasty.
I like your Michael Hasty.
Benny G, he's right there with us. This is why I like to have Hasty on the roster. I like Hasty. He's explosive. He'll get you some chunks. Zachary says, you're a clown if you're calling for Jimmy G right now, quote unquote. Should I go for Ronald McDonald or Bozo? I guess he's saying he's Bozo. Bozo. Sorry, Zach.
Bozo the clown.
Trey says, what is Kyle's disconnect with second half adjustments? He's known for losing games in the second half since the Falcons, and he hasn't improved. I kind of get the feeling that he's the kind of guy who has a great game plan. He called up his dad. He's got a lot of people in his Rolodex. His game plan for this game was great. When things happen to go unexpected, he's not the best at thinking on his feet, in my opinion. What do you think?
I just think he gets away from the run. He gets away from the run, or in there's times he gets a tad too conservative. I mean, it's a little bit of both. Sometimes he's a little too conservative. Sometimes his feel, I think, eludes him from time to time.
Sure. Mr. Blue Magic 23 says, look at all the great QB first full season stats. Only Pat and Justin had good and after. Yeah. Yep. All the great quarterbacks had some rough first seasons. Jim Bill says, Trey will be great, but what's the hurries? 22. JG will get this veteran team to the playoffs this season. Focus on Trey Lance for next season. But if you want Trey Lance to be good next season, he needs to play this season. He's not going to improve on the bench, is the way I look at it that one.
I mean, I think you got an option play here. You got an option, right? If you've made your bed with Trey, you already made the trade. He's on your team. You've traded the capital to get him.
Right.
But I agree. If he's really raw and he proves he's really raw, then play Garoppolo and go for the wins and develop him on the side. If he's not as raw as I think, and he can be developed this year, then develop him this year and scale down your offense a little bit and commit to him. But I mean, to me, there is more than one way to go about this.
Dave says, just got to say again, you guys rock. Love what you do. Love the honesty. It isn't always sweet, but it is what is happening. So we need to know. Thanks, Dave. You're the greatest.
I appreciate that too.
Mason says people really think Jimmy would have won. I don't. And I don't think he would have been the reason they lost either. The reason they lost was 99 yards and penalties, 2 uncontested touchdowns. Ethan M says Trey passing 25 plus times in rain is set up for failure. Well, they were on pace to not do that. What do you have, 10 throws? It was 6 for 10 at halftime.
Right.
Yeah.
And I'll say it. I think he should be on a pitch count. Keep him on a pitch count. You want him 15 to 25 throws, nothing more than that. In a game like yesterday, maybe even less than 20.
Kajon25 says Debo should have been traded. Ayuk is more important to Trey. Said it all off season. I got to say, I know what you mean. I'm starting to feel that way too. A little early to say it, but I think Belichick would have traded him. That's all I'm saying.
Debo means more to the Niners though than just his numbers. I think there's a physicality and a swagger that he brings to the table that is tangible.
Pato says 10 wins takes the NFC West. Niners still in a great spot. Trey's team unless he's hurt, but can't afford to trade Jimmy given the way Kyle uses number 5. I think I agree with all that. Pat.
I think you can trade Jimmy because I think Purdy could be a backup and be decent.
Dave says I agree. Debo should have been traded. LCR, locker room drama. Well, we'll see. He's a great athlete. Let's give him an opportunity to redeem himself. Cabo Rojo says, rough weather, first game, let's roll. BT Dub, let's get a better scramble practice quarterback. Yeah, how are you going to prepare for Justin Fields by facing? Should have been Brock. Brock can scramble. Trice says, Lance with the most carries is crazy. Forgetting about Ayuk is crazy. Not using Mason is crazy. Blowing a 10-point lead is crazy. Blame Kyle. Yeah, not his best game. Not his best game. He could do better than that. Seth Harvey says, Ayuk was a first-round pick. Grant and Larry are right. Yeah, man, you traded up for Ayuk. You should be dying to give him 10 targets, especially if the first 2 net you 40 yards. Why would you shy away from him after that?
You had a chance at Justin Jefferson, and you told everybody that you liked Ayuk and wanted Ayuk, so use him.
You said you liked Ayuk better than Justin Jefferson. Justin Jefferson got 11 targets this week. Ayuk got 2. E and DK says, you think we could trade Jimmy G and Warner for Parsons and a good O-line, man? No.
Oh, I love me some Parsons. How great is he?
He's great. Dirty Gold Bands. Gold Dirty I didn't even get that right. Gold Dirty Bastards with a Z. Thank you. Wesley Baldwin says, one glimmer of hope is the whole NFC West lost, and honestly, the Rams and Cardinals look worse than the Niners.
Yeah, you look who they played.
They all look like teams that didn't do the preseason. Niner Not a Bot says the problem isn't Trey. The problem is that the draft mate looked amazing compared to him with the worst roster. To think we could have gotten Fields for free.
I don't see the awesomeness in Fields. I mean, think about it. Fields runs 4.4, and he was sacked 36 times last year. And he was sacked a ton at Ohio State. What does that tell you? It tells you that he processes this thing slowly. I also think that he's 4.4 speed for the stopwatch, but he doesn't play to 4.4. You don't see him running like that in the game. I think they got the right quarterback. It's just all for all young quarterbacks. It takes time. And let's be honest about ourselves as a Niner fan base. We're very collectively impatient. So that's the real problem I see is that you got a quarterback that's going to take a little time, and you got a fan base and a coaching staff and an ownership group that we're all collectively very impatient. So this is going to be a huge challenge for everybody to just let Trey develop.
Yeah, I kind of like Fields. He kind of reminds me of like a bigger Kyler Murray, and Kyler Murray has his issues too. But it feels like with both of them, their best plays are when they just scramble around. Like, just abandon the play, scramble around, see what happens. Fields makes plays like that. Kyler does too. And it's like, Is that because you're not reading the field and that's all you can do? Or does your team suck? Does your coach suck? It's hard to say with those guys. So I don't know. It'd be interesting to know what Fields would look like on the Niners because, frankly, that was a nice spiral. He's a good athlete. He's a really good athlete. But I like Lance. Yeah.
I'd rather have Lance today than Fields. How about you?
Same.
Yeah.
Giving it to Debo so much is risky. He has injury history. Would save this for the playoffs, not so much in regular season. We draft third round running backs, use them. Yeah, I thought that was the whole point, right? That's what we talked about during the draft. Oh, why did they draft a running back in round 3? Oh, because they don't want to use Debo that way anymore. Week 1, 8 carries.
Well, it kind of goes to show that it really was more about paying Debo his money. It wasn't about the usage. We harped way too much on the usage. They're going to probably wind up using him exactly the same, except that now they've paid him the money.
The Tej P05 says, why go back to Jimmy when we already know what we're going to get? Hit not enough to win it all. Move on and commit to the future, Trey. See, to me, if Jimmy had won the Super Bowl in 2019, it would make you feel like we have a chance, but he didn't. So you don't.
What's worse? What's worse, by the way? Trey making mistakes initially, or Jimmy making the same mistakes habitually?
Right. Trey, Mr. Blue Magic 23 says, only reason Trey catching heat is our roster is great. I think there's a lot of reasons. I think it's kind of a cultural phenomenon. It's interesting. He's
There's a lot of Jimmy people who are pushing back on the criticism that Jimmy's gotten. I think that's a big part of it. Also, the FCS, I think that's part of it. I'd like to think race is not a part of it, but we're probably naive to think it's not a part of it. But yeah, and I think the talent level on the roster does make people less patient, right? People would show more patience for Trey if the Niners weren't a Super Bowl contender.
I think there's a lot of like to what we were talking about earlier. There's a lot of bottom line football analysts that don't necessarily watch the film or get deep into the analysis. They're just like, well, that team won. That's the quarterback. He must be good. And those people felt very strongly about Jimmy Garoppolo being good. They were sort of proven wrong because the league doesn't feel that way about him. No trade market. The Niners don't feel that way about him. They benched him. And I feel like this is their year to be like, okay, well, we can still be right if Trey Lance fails. So let's
right. You didn't like our guy, we're not going to like your guy.
Exactly. Kevin, thank you. Izzy says Kyle was mad at Trey for missing high and low, especially when they missed Debo low on that 3 receiver set. Hope for a better game next week from everyone. He was mad about that screen on the last play of the second half. Yeah, that was a bad look.
He looked mad at Aziz. I'll say that for the personal foul he had.
Adam Paul says, what week do you think Trey will get in a good rhythm with this offense?
It's a great question. I don't know that it's easy to predict either because, I haven't really seen him getting any kind of a rhythm yet, really, compared to what I think he's got.
I thought he got in a rhythm against the Texans week in the second half last year. I think it depends on Kyle too and who's healthy, but it could be this week against the Seahawks. If Jordan Mason or Ty Davis Price gets going on the ground and they can do play action off of it, I think he'll be in a rhythm.
I saw an interview with Quincy Avery, the quarterback guru who he worked with, and he said that Trey was one of the very best at not repeating his mistakes, at making mistakes, figuring them out, and then growing from those mistakes. And the way he attacked the post-game presser, where he identified every mistake that he made, or a good number of them, kind of tells me that he's got a list of things that he's trying to improve at. I think that's going to be a good thing long term.
Yeah. As opposed to Jimmy would come out there and be like, yeah, we need to get better. Right. C. Turley says, how does Kyle not get fired if they miss the playoffs this season? Because no one wants Trey Lance learning a new offense next year. Right. And
Jed, we're too close to Chip Kelly and Tom Sula and that whole circus. They're worlds better than where they were. And I don't even think, I think Kyle would have to have like coaching, negligence of the highest order before he's going to be. I personally, I kind of think he can kind of make his, if he wins a Super Bowl, he definitely can do what he wants. But even if he doesn't win a Super Bowl here, I think it's going to take several years before Jed in any way is going down that road.
Yeah, I think Jed really likes him. King Geo says, I told you about Huff before the draft. Watch when Ward gets back, how he performs. Okay.
The Niners ones at the safety spots look a whole. Think about this. We talked about, I wanted Nick Cross in the draft. There were a lot of people that wanted safety. Nobody was saying, hey, Afanga. So at the end of the day, it's like you got to remember that we're guessing. They kind of see their guys. They knew what they had.
Yeah. Kevin Spencer says judging this team's first game negatively in that weather with a rookie is really presumptuous. I believe they'll get better. Kyle's my only concern. All right, Kevin. I think they'll get better too. And I think Kyle will figure out how to use Trey, and D'Amico will get his defense together. I still think they're a really good team. But wow, that was a bad loss. Woo!
Really
wow.
Bad. Really bad.